Hi everybody, my name is Betsy and this is my channel. This is a channel about cross stitch mostly. I go by Betsy, my pronouns are she, her, and both here and on Instagram my account is Betselina Stitches. Welcome. And thanks for those of you who saw my previous video, which was a whip parade, looking at all of my works in progresses, and decided to come back today. This video was recorded on February 2nd, and today I'm going to do my first video that's more just regular progress and plans coming up. So the last video was filmed around January 15th, so this is about 2 weeks of stitching. And let's start with my finishes. So if you watched my last video, I was just very close to a finish on this, but this is Stitch for Pride 2024, and this was a Stitchalong run by D's 20 Stitches. There are 12 motifs, and each motif was released on a monthly basis, and they're all inspired by different queer artists. Each month you got a little motif inspired by a queer artist, and then also some learning about that artist. So that was really cool. And I think I just had a little bit of the orange left to do in the center there on the love motif, which is inspired by Robert, Indiana. So maybe let's show this a little bit closer up. Okay, my second finish was this Surrounded by Joy. It was an ornament freebie by Bent Creek Designs. I think these are both on a 32 count, just sort of natural linen that I had, 2/2. And this one had quite a bit of little specialty stitches in the wreath there. There are some sort of leaf stitches and French knots. So hopefully you can see that okay. And then my third finish was actually a start and a finish. It's Please Don't Leave Classified Documents in the Bathroom. This is by Subversive Cross Stitch. And this was my inauguration day stitch. This is a piece of, I think, 32 count hemp linen from Jackson Fiber Arts. And it's called for DMC 2/2, but then the red and the blue in the border are some leftover overdyes I had. So there's actually 3 colors of blue, and a dark red. So yeah, please don't leave classified documents in the bathroom. And then I had 2 starts, which I'll talk about next. I'll show it later, but you may have seen that I was working on a temperature cross stitch. That was the moon phases by Climbing Goat Designs. I wasn't quite sure if I was going to do another temperature cross stitch, but I did it. So I ended up getting another Climbing Goat Designs. This is Night Sky temperature cross stitch. Um, and you'll kind of see there's a star motif or a cluster of stars for each day of the month. I currently have all of January stitched. And then the design goes all the way around the earth. And the earth itself is one of several possible earth motifs. This one is looking at North and Central America, so that's why I chose that one. But yeah, I will try to pop in a picture of what the finish looks like. But yeah, this has been fun. I also chose it because it was fewer stitches. This will only be 10 inches by 10 inches on, this is 28 count, 2/2 black Monaco, and just quite a few less stitches. So I'm hoping that will help me keep up with it and not see it as like something I have to get through. I'm really enjoying these little star motifs. And I again did the both maximum and minimum temperatures. So each star motif has two colors, and one is the maximum temperature and one is the minimum temperature. Okay. And so that was a continuation of Climbing Goat Designs. Temperature charts, and this next start is a continuation of Stitch for Pride. So this is the 2025 Stitch for Pride. This is the beginning of the January motif. This is a 32 count plum hemp linen by Jackson Fiber Arts. I actually just ordered a sort of multi-pack so I could try out some of their fabrics. And this was one of the ones I got a larger piece of fabric on. And most of the colors are lighter, so Dee had suggested a darker color would be great for this. And I just finally got the floss pack from Canada and tested it out next to this fabric, and I'm really excited to see how it goes. I'm not usually one to go for such bright fabric, but I think for this it's going to be great. And the Stitch for Pride for this year is based on figures in history who were trans or gender bending of some sort. And this one is Elagabalus, who is a teenage Syrian priest who became Roman emperor for a few years. And we got a bunch of learning about them. It was really super interesting, looking at sort of how this person did a bunch of things that were perhaps not considered, this was part of it was this person was came from a different culture, came from Syria, and most of the evidence around Elagabalus's life was written by people who didn't like Elagabalus. So there are quite a few things that were the historians are pretty sure are true, and then there's lots of crazy stories that it's not clear whether it's true or if it's just someone didn't like him and or her and was, you know, uh, exaggerating the stories of how Elagabalus acted in order to make them look bad or because of racism against Syrians. Um, it's kind of funny. Their cousin was uh, the next emperor and had a very similar cultural heritage, but was able to appear more Roman, and so they considered him to be, more assimilated into Roman culture. So they didn't get nearly as much criticism. But Elagabalus was a worshiper of a sun god that was represented by a black obelisk, and through lavish parties was thought to have drowned some of his guests in rose petals at one such gathering, and in general didn't conform to standards of male um, behaviors and dress and etc. So that's pretty exciting. The next uh, person, learning, and motif have been released just yesterday, but I haven't had a chance to dive in quite yet, and I'm still working on the motif. Um, and I will show you a little bit of the threads that I received from um, Algie Ross is the name of the dyer, um, another queer person participating, and I believe they also did the historical learning for this year. Um, I know that Dee is a little more busy with work, and so bringing in someone else to help with these parts of it means uh, more collaboration and also less work for Dee. So that's great. Um, let's see. So those are finishes and starts. Um, I also worked on some ongoing whips. So I worked on the completion of my 2024 temperature chart, which has the moon phases. I'm very close to a finish. Um, so that's what that looks like. You'll notice that right in the bottom corner near my face, there's a couple stitches I need to complete. I also need to map out and stitch the Washington, D.C., USA at the bottom. And then I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this, but each little moon has a back stitch outline in DMC 317. So it gives it a little bit of shimmer and it outlines some of the darker colors against the black. I think it looks really great in person, but it's definitely been sort of several sessions of doing some backstitching and then getting bored of the backstitching and doing something else. So once that is complete, this will be a finish. I'm really excited about it. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do the frame or what, but I would like to have this up somewhere in my house. And you can kind of see, I think it's interesting, like in the very middle, there's some very dark red. Those are like the few days of summer that were over 100 degrees here in DC. So that's cool. The only other whip that I worked on, I'm not sure how much progress I made, but I did see that I had some stitching days. Um, and that is this other ornament from the Jingle Ball Baubles book, Bright Noel. Um, and I'll show you, but this was part of my whip go board where I'm trying to at least start several ornaments, uh, 2 ornaments each month, um, in order to have more to choose from when I decide at the end of the year that I need to give people ornaments or um, do some kind of Christmas stitching. It's kind of weird. I'm not super Christmas oriented, but I think I just like the idea of the small finishes every so often. And again, I'm doing it on the same fabric as the Joy, Surrounded by Joy. This one is by Tiny Modernist. And again, I'm doing 2/2 using the called for DMC. Um, So, as I said, I'm participating in WhipGo this year. And if you don't know or you didn't hear in my previous video, WhipGo is kind of like a bingo game that Justin Murray does stuff, um, designed several years back. There's 25 squares. The middle square can be free or you can put something there. And then the other 24 squares can fill in however way you like. I am actually doing 3 WhipGo boards this year. Um, so each month on, well, the 25th before the month that it is called for, Jessie Marie will pull 2 numbers, and then those 2 numbers sort of decide what you're assigned for that month. So um, I have one WhipGo board that is all ornaments and Christmas things and intended to just be get started. I it's I also don't want to like make this a huge like obligation on my part. So my feeling on the ornaments especially is like if I touch it, if I put in a thread, that counts. Um, and we'll see. Um, Sometimes plans are more aspirations for me. I've been doing good in January, but we'll see how it goes. So the 2 ornaments that were picked in January were the Bright Noel ornament by Tiny Modernist and the Surrounded by Joy by Bent Creek Designs. And um, for February, 2 more ornaments were pulled. Those were both from the Jingle Ball Baubles ornament book, which, um, and those were uh, Our Dear Home, which I'll try to put up a photo of. Um, and that one is by Jeannette Douglas, who I did the specialty stitches class with this year's Jingle Ball, and With Love and a Little Help, which I believe also has a deer in it. And that one is by oh come on, I'm trying to look at my Notion. Um, that one is by this is a designer that's new to me, so I want to make sure I get the name right. Um, oh, Pansy Patch Quilts. That's not too complicated. Um, but I'll also put a picture of that one up here. So those are both smalls, but maybe a little bit bigger than the Surrounded by Joy ornament, which was only like 600 cross stitches and some minimal back stitching and French knots. Um, so we'll see how far I get on them, but the idea is just to start them. And then the second board I'm doing is including my current whips, not including the things I started since January 1st, as well as some things that I just meant to start, um, and have just been on my list to start for a while. So this is sort of like motivation to keep going on those or to get them started. So this last month, those were the um, Mill Hill uh, pink flower uh, kit that I've been working on. That's a beaded kit. That was my first time doing any beading, and so I'm um, kind of using it as practice for if I ever want to do it in a fancy lady or something that seems like more high stakes. Um, and the other one was the Whovian Stitchalong, so the Doctor Who one with the Daleks. I think the Daleks was what I added in the time. Um, and this month, what was called was um, the Delft sampler, which is those Delft tiles with the mother motif in the middle, and it's a paper pattern. So I've been kind of avoiding it a little bit. Um, but yeah, so I'm going to get a few days on that this month. And then the other one was this Juneteenth Day by Shaded Stitchery, Nuri. Um, and that one, I think I'm about 15% complete. Um, and again, it's to commemorate Juneteenth. So um, I figure it's not June, but it's February, and February is Black History Month. So it's kind of related, gives me something um, to do that's a little bit related to Black history, or a lot related to Black history. Um, and so those are the 4 projects that I plan to work on in February. The other project that I hope to work on is Ars Robotica, um, which was my Leap Day start last year. Um, and so with the Leap Day starts, the idea is that you finish the project by the following Leap Day. Um, I'm about 20% complete. So I figured that by this February, I should be 25% complete at least. So I'd like to get some more stitches into that just to make sure I'm making progress towards the Leap Day in 2028. Yeah. So that is what I'm planning on. Let me see. Did I miss anything that I'm planning? Oh, I definitely plan to finish the moon phases chart. I actually was hoping to finish it in January. Um, just to get that, the temperatures are done and I just need to like eat my vegetables and finish the border and the back stitching. Um, And then, of course, making progress on Stitch for Pride. I would love to keep up with the months. I think I have about 1,000 stitches left on January, and I'm not sure how big February is, but they're usually about that size. So hopefully that won't be too much work. Um, and then I also just wanted to talk about investments or haul. I know that's not some people's thing, so if you don't care about haul, thanks for coming. We I would love to see you again, but this is where I'm going to start that. So if you want to leave, feel free. So I had a few investments. Let me just hold on one second and I will go get them. Okay, so investments. I am in the Be Stitch Me Fabric of the Month Club. And I usually get 36 count linen. So February's fabric of the month is called Honey. And it's this great, like, orangey. I feel like it's getting a little washed out. Oh, maybe that's a little bit better. It's brighter than it's showing on here. It's quite gray outside, so I'm not sure how good the colors are showing up. So I got that. I never know quite what to do with these like orangey yellow fabrics, so I'm still kind of trying to figure out what makes sense to use this for. And then Brandy at Bestitch Me had a sale on ready-made, already dyed fabrics that included a lot of reds. It seemed like it was maybe in preparation for Valentine's Day. And I've been looking at A Study in Nature, which I know Caroline from the Thread Gremlins is working on, maybe. Um, and possibly Allison from Cross Stitch the Globe. I could be totally wrong. But I thought this was a good time to get a fabric for that. I don't have the pattern. I don't have any plans to start it. But this is Merlot by Bestitch Me in a 20 count Aida. The pattern calls for 40 count. I think it's Aztec Red. And I still haven't really started anything on 40 count. So I decided to try doing 1/1 on 20 count Aida and see how that goes. I also have a piece of fabric that I'm planning to start Halloween at Hawk Run Hollow that is 40 count, but it's not quite so dark, so I think it might be easier to see. And in that same order, I also got Sugar Cream Pie, which it's a white with a little bit of a like orangey pink tint, but very light. And this is 25 count Lugana, I think. Yes, 25 count Lugana. And I did some stitching last year doing 1/1 on 25 count, and I liked that. So I'm hoping to do something similar to that in the future. But I don't know what project. Who knows? Um, I also just recently joined the Fat Quarter Shop floss fix for Classic Colorworks to sort of build up my overdyed floss stash. I realized recently that after my recent order, I will have every color of DMC, assuming that my tracking is good. And so that's kind of exciting, but of course, I want more of the pretty variegated overdyed flosses. So what they do with this club is they send you the colors in alphabet order, assuming they have them in stock. So, and they basically just try not to send you anything that you said you already have or that has been sent out recently. So this is my first month doing it. And I'll show you the colors. These were M colors. So we had Magnolia Blossom. It's kind of a very pale yellow. Manor Red. It's kind of like a brick red color. Mariner's Compass. It's like a light brown, variegated brown. Marmalade is a variegated orange. I think I might have a marmalade and a different dyer as well. I'm not sure if they're similar. This one, I like the color because it's punny. The name is Mauvelous. So it's kind of a dusty rose mauve color. And the last one was Meadow Green, which is sort of, I feel like it's not getting the color very well, but it's a variegated, like sea green. So that was fun to receive. And then I also, just a couple days ago, got the floss pack for Stitch for Pride. And like I said, this was dyed by Algie Ross. The first round of the floss was sold out really quickly. I think there was only like 25 available. And then they did a second round. But all this was happening during the Canada Post strike. And so I think this one didn't have to go through any issues with Canada Post, but it was sent out in the middle of January. So I just got it yesterday. Or the day before. Maybe it was the day before. But these colors were all dyed inspired by the figures and the motifs for Stitch for Pride. So this one is a January one, and it's called Indicum. It's kind of like a baby blue with some dark blue splotches in it. And then I know that the next one is Mifkat. I might not be saying that right, but this is sort of a turquoisey, slightly greenish blue. It's really looking very blue, but it's closer to the color of the green triangles on my shirt. Slightly more blue. Then there's this lovely pale pink called Petal of the Lily. There's another one with more stark variegation, Lapis Lazuli. It's kind of like bluish, purplish, and some fuchsia. um, glauconite. Um, this is a light green. See, this one looks like it's closer to my dress, but it's actually a little more yellow than that. Oza, this is yellow. That looks pretty accurate. Johannia Levale. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. You can kind of see what the color is. But it's another kind of dusty rose-ish color. Uranium oxide is this bright orangey color. It's looking a little washed out, but it's brighter than this. Sissinghurst rose. This is that looks about right. Sort of purpley pink. It's looking more purple than pink, but I assure you it's a bright pink. Cochinilla y plata is this sort of red, white, and pink variegation. Saxon. Again, it's not showing quite as dark or bright as it is, but this is a yellow with sort of brownish undertones, maybe a little bit greenish. And the last one is called Sumu. And please forgive me, I have no idea if I'm pronouncing these correctly. If I find out, I will tell you. But yeah, this one is sort of a pink with some more cream and peach going through it. Yeah, so lots of floss since we last talked. So that's exciting. And then I'm not going to show you any of the PDF patterns that I bought because I don't even know where they are. But I did get 2 kits. One was another Mill Hill kit. This one is in the Autumn Harvest series, and it's called Honey, and it's a bee. So that's an exciting one. This one actually has colored floss, so I don't think it's all beaded. So that'll be new to me. And then for Christmas, although I don't know if I received it before I filmed, my partner got me this Dimensions kit, and it's called Winter Pattern. So very generic name. But my partner does things with like visual arts that include this kind of like mirroring. And so this is a good example of mirroring but in cross stitch. So I'm excited to start this. I have no plans yet, but it's cute. It's very like wintry, and it says you could make it into, it's 14 count also on Navy Ada, so I think it'll be pretty quick once I get started. It's trying to see if it says the size dimensions. Oh, 14 by 14 inches, so pretty big. And it says, you can frame it or make it into a pillow. So I think it would be great to make it into a pillow for our couch, but I have no idea how to do that. So we'll see if that happens. And then just by chance, I saw in someone's D-stash the summer pattern of this series, which has, it's similar, but of course the foliage and the birds are slightly different. So hopefully I'll have a matching pair. So those are all my investments. I do a lot of reading. To be fair, a lot of YA fantasy, especially if the characters are queer or not white or, outside of all the things I read until I was older. And yeah, so currently I'm reading Babel by R.F. Kuang. She wrote the Poppy War trilogy, which I really enjoyed. It has a lot of battle scenes, if that's not your thing. It's not usually my thing, but I did enjoy it. Babel is really interesting so far. I'm not very far into it, and my hold expired, so I had to return it. But I hope to continue reading it soon. So it's the main character is a boy from Canton who is has sort of mysteriously been sent like English language books and a tutor, even though his family never had a lot of money. So he is almost fluent in English at the beginning, although obviously he lives in China. So he's speaking and reading Chinese mostly. And these are not spoilers. This is the very beginning of the book. And this professor comes to his town after there's been a plague and everyone is dying and takes him back to London and puts him into a serious training regime to learn ancient Greek and Latin, and says you're going to be a translator. And the part of the book I'm in now, he is at Oxford at the Translation Institute, and sort of just learning about potential nefarious goings on that Oxford and the Translation Institute are supporting. There's an element of magic in that silver paired with translation creates a magic that can, power weapons or heal disease or, make your boat go faster, various things. I haven't gotten into a lot of detail about all of the other things that translation can do. But so far, it's kind of moved into the going to school and something mysterious is going on, which I feel like is a common trope that I end up reading books that includes. And it's there's some context of everyone else is a white man, and the translators are um, uh, a Chinese man, a South Asian man, a black woman, and a white woman are the people in his class, and they're sort of outsiders to the rest of um, Oxford, but within the Translation Institute, it's normal. Um, so yeah, I love languages, so um, I'm enjoying it so far, but I don't really know like where the plot is going. But I would still recommend it just based on um, the way that she describes things and assesses culture is really interesting. Um, so I'm also reading Times Convert by Deborah Harkness. Um, I thought that this was maybe a follow up or in the series with the All Souls trilogy, but I think this is actually a new trilogy. So the All Souls trilogy is the series that A Discovery of Witches, the show, is based on. Um, and it has witches and werewolves and demons and vampires, a lot of vampires. Um, and this story, the other stories are sort of the story of uh, a witch and a vampire couple, and this story looks more at one of the vampire's children, Marcus, and his wife, Phoebe. So um, that's been interesting. There were more historical elements about Europe in the first set of books. And this set of books, Marcus is American when he becomes a vampire. And so there's a lot more American history. Um, the author is like a professor of history, or she's a historian of some sort. So there's a lot of like historical fantasy, but based on real history. Um, so I'm enjoying that. So far, it seems like it's really going over like all of the hard things in Marcus's life, superimposed with his wife's experience of being a new vampire. Um, so, but I'm enjoying it. Um, and then the third book that I'm reading is called Split Tooth by Tanya Tagaq. Um, she is a Inuit throat singer, and I don't really know of her in that context, but apparently like well-known Inuit throat singer. Um, and this is sort of, I'm not sure if it's a novella. It's short, um, but it's a story of kids growing up in Alaska um, in Inuit regions, and um, sort of includes the ways that the adults around them have been impacted by the residential schools, some of their own trauma that's happened throughout their childhood. Um, I would say if you're like very easily triggered or you just don't want to read about abuse, that it might not be the book for you. There are some graphic pieces, but it's definitely really compelling because it's set in this place that's very different from where I grew up. You know, it's very like there are times in the summer where the sun is always out, And then there's times in the winter where there's very little light, and then there's curfews for the kids, but they don't always follow them. And there's um, sort of interacting with the tundra, snowy landscape, and ice, and all of the things that come with that part of the world um, in um, ways that are just foreign to me. So I find it super interesting. And I think, the last few years, the things that I've read have been really like based around, um, there's been a certain kind of author that has gotten more acclaim and who I read a lot of um, sort of well off white men and some women. Um, and that's led to, well, I ran out of space, but now I have a little kitty buddy. This is a Reuben. We call him Baby Floof a lot of the time. He likes to be very independent, but he's the baby. So I think what I was saying was just that a lot of the books that I was exposed to as a kid and a young adult were all from often a similar perspective. Um, there was a little bit less of that um, when it came to sort of key books you were supposed to read to understand different parts of history, but there's just been an explosion of authors um, and an explosion of my knowledge of authors that have different perspectives than mine. So I often try to read things from those authors. So um, delighted to be able to read the perspective of someone who grew up in um, the Inuit territories. Um, but of course, some of the history is uh, not that great. So get to hear about that too. I think that's it for today. Um, the only other thing I've been doing is my other whip go board is the third one is not cross stitch related, but it has uh, projects or things that I've been putting off related to my house. Um, so this last month, one of them was to just sort through and empty a box in my basement. And then the other one was gardening, which is it was January, so that meant basically the only thing I could do was seed starting. So I have started some seeds. I'm growing different kinds of peppers and eggplants, and um, I think I might try strawberries next because I hear that I can start those inside. It's still pretty cold out here. Usually our last frost is in April. Um, so getting my gardening bug going again. I have a similar kind of feeling about the collecting of seeds and the collecting of data and tracking what you're doing and things with gardening that I do with cross stitch. So good to kind of alternate a little bit, do some more of the gardening type things in addition to all of the winter stitching. But anyway, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Um, that's what I'm supposed to say, right? Yeah, really just thank you for anyone who watched my whip parade or this video, liked, subscribed. It's wild thinking that people who don't know you might think some of the things you have to say in a video are interesting enough to subscribe. But yeah, hoping this helps me become a little bit more involved in the cross stitch community. Um, I am loving watching whip parades. Um, it's a fun time of year to see what everyone has in their projects. And yeah, hope whatever you're doing, you're getting a little stitching in, taking care of yourself. The world is a little bit uncertain and all over the place in the last few weeks. So just remember that rest is an action also, and taking care of yourself helps you to, um, you know, get through the hard times. See you next time.